next, I would like to introduce another scholar who is fluent in Gujarati. This is Venu Mehta. She's an assistant professor in Jainism and comparative spiritualities at Claremont School of Theology, where she's one of our colleagues with Arihanta, with the staff at Arihanta. Some of her present research focuses on the devotional practices, literature, and iconography of the Jain goddess Padmavati. Please welcome Dr. Venu Mehta.
Thank you, Gojan Bhai. Nothing makes me happier than telling that I'm Gujarati. Thanks a lot for organizing this conference. I've been enjoying and learning a lot from diverse presentations and scholars. So thanks, Gojan Bhai, Chris, and Parveenji. Okay, so I'll share my screen. I don't have too many slides. I have a couple of pictures to show, and let me do So we are going to deal with 10 million gold coins and 500 thieves, and we are going to talk about Kapila Kevali. So this is very interesting. I met Kapila Kevali in Uttaradhyana Sutra as I was going through all the sutras and canonical scriptures to look for where the yakshas and yakshis come for my PhD dissertation. That was my supervisor, Dr. Narayan's instruction. Go for every script and look for yaksha and yakshis. And there where I came to know about this, and I found the chapter from this Uttaradhyana Sutra very interesting. And I'm thankful for this conference that I could really develop that as my presentation. Again, I'm not a scholar in Jain Yoga, but I'll try to start something in that. So I'll keep one picture in front of you. So in this presentation, I read the 8th chapter ascribed to sage Kapil or Kapila Kevali, which is titled Kapiliya, or also called as Kaviliam in Prakrit or Kapiliam Adhyayanam, of the Uttarayadhyana Sutra, the first of the 4 Mula Sutras of the Shvetambara canon. The sutra is divided into 36 chapters and written in Ardhamagati Prakrit. While each chapter treats different aspects of Jain doctrine, this particular chapter and its intention explains, as Jacobi explains, is to instruct a young monk in his principal duties to command an ascetic life by precepts and examples, and to warn him against the danger in his spiritual career. From the point of view of Jains, the sutra contains the words of Mahavira, expecting the 8th chapter, which is ascribed to Kapila Kevali or Kapila. Moreover, I use the vritti or commentary on the Uttaradhyana Sutra named Sukhabodha, which is written in 14,000 verses by Devendra Gani, also known as Nemichandra Suri, in the year 1123 AD. My attempt in this presentation is to explore the concept of Samadhi Yoga as it is depicted in the 8th chapter of the Sutra, and probe into its expansion through the story of Kapila Kevali as told in the commentary by Devendra Gani. Simultaneously, I will also focus on the aesthetic, poetic, and narrative element used in the chapter, which is, in my opinion, enhances the message on one hand and leaves us with a couple of reflective questions on the other. So what is Samadhi Yoga and how it relates to various elements of Jain tapas in this particular chapter? The 8th chapter, Kaviliam or Kapiliam, consists of 20 verses only. The intention developed therein is to instruct an ascetic to pursue tapas, a lifestyle which is with a disciplined body, mind, and senses. Altogether, the chapter instructs on pursuing a spiritual career by rejecting, indulging into greed and lust, and apparently warning against the danger of being born as asura or demon, or even caught in the cycle of rebirth, as expected therein, by failing to commit discipline, austere life. The concept of Samadhi Yoga evolves around this doctrinal injunction of tapas or discipline, austere life. As it comes, and to put it simple way, Samadhi Yoga is the means to tapas. But then how does Kapila define Samadhi Yoga in the sutra, and what entails Samadhi Yoga? It is further developed in the commentary. The term Samadhi Yoga appears only in the verse 14th of the sutra text. And as Jacobi translate, it goes this way: those who do not take their life under discipline, who cease from meditation and ascetic practice, and who are desirous of pleasure, amusement, and good fare, will be born as asura. Jacobi also translates Samadhi Yoga, and he glosses in the footnote as meditation and ascetic practices. Samadhi as concentration of mind. The yogas are in this connection are the operations or the vyapara of mind, speech, and body conducive to it. While Jacobi's translation suffices the purpose of understanding of the verse in the translation, Devendra Gani's commentarial work further expand the meaning of Samadhi Yoga. The paraphrased version of the commentary goes that way: how does an undisciplined one in this life who has fallen by not practicing the 12 kinds of tapas can gradually destroy the uncontrolled nature of the soul by Samadhi Yoga? And then comes the definition of Samadhi Yoga. And I'm translating what it is. Samadhi means a state of healthy mind, and from which attains is yoga, such as auspicious or a shubha operation, that is vyapara of mind, speech, and body. Thus, by Samadhi Yoga, the uncontrolled nature of the soul can fall gradually. That is the commentarial work on the verse 14. This was the straightforward definition of Samadhi Yoga. However, how does the chapter reach to the definition or declaration of what is called Samadhi Yoga? Can be understood by exploring the rest of the content of the chapter, which really prepares one to understand why the Samadhi Yoga would come eventually. The chapter begins with a question about how one avoids going to a lower birth or hell. And then Kapil in the chapter gives the instruction to an ascetic to do the following: not to practice or feel affection of any kind, remaining detached from any desire, taste for food, lust, adultery, specifically relationship with tempting women, not to get caught into any bondage, to remain away from killing animals. So those who are into like animal advocacy would like this because it has a very elaborated description of it. Not practicing Lakshana-śāstra, Swapna-śāstra, or Anga-vidya. And these are the Vedic or Indian branches of astrology, particularly ascribed to Hindu traditions. This is to say that Kapila in the chapter instruct ascetic to practice Samadhi Yoga, to remain abstain from all these activities which I described above, which are undesirable for a mendicant to avoid rebirth as Asura, and which rebirth as Asura keeps on coming. So, well, now I told you that how do we come to the Samadhi Yoga? Now, how do we come to Samadhi Yoga? Did Kapil himself practice Samadhi Yoga? That is how he attained Kevalya Jnana. And who is Kapili and what is his story? So that's the part that really develops into the commentarial work beautifully. And I will read the central message in the chapter of Uttradhana Sutra is to avoid the greed and lust, which is best expressed in the 17th verse, and it goes this way: Jaha laho taha loho. Laha laho pravadhi, meaning when there is sense of possessing or gaining, there will be greed. Possessing brings greed. And how these are linked and how Samadhi Yoga is presented as prescribed is expressed through the narrative of Kapila Kevali developed in the commentarial work. Having said that, I now move to the second chapter, which I told you about, like who is Kapila, how did he receive Kevalya Jnana. So the second part of my presentation is focusing on that. While we briefly meet Kapila in the main text, the text Sukhabodha, the commentary by Devendra Gani constructs and tells us about the life story of Kapila Kevali in a very dramatic way, using poetical style, and the commentator author leaves us with an experience of doctrinal message through poetic beauty. This chapter consists of verses ascribed to, as I told you, sage Kapila and written in Dhruva Kachanda. It's a kind of a poetic meter. His story is told in the commentary, and I present the condensed and the summarized version of it. In the city of Kausambi, King Jatashatru had a Brahmin priest named Kashyapa. When Kashyap died, the king appointed another priest, and the Kashyap's widow and her son fell in poverty. To get the boy an education, the widow sent him to the city of Shravasti, where lived Indradatta, a friend of Kashyapa. Indradatta was willing enough to let the boy study with him, but he too was poor to lodge and feed him. However, he got a merchant named Shalibhadra to take him. Their couple fell in love with a maid servant and neglected his studies. One day he found her in tears because she had no money to buy garlands, garments, ornaments needed for a particular celebration. She asked Kapil to go for money to get the money to get money from a rich merchant named Dan, who gave 2 pieces of gold every morning to the first person who greeted him. Kapila stayed awake all night and set out while it was dark for Dana's house. But in the darkness, the city police took him for a thief, arrested him, and in the morning brought him before the king Prasenjit. The king saw at once that the boy was no thief and asked for his story. And the boy told promptly. The king was pleased and offered Kapila a boon. And Kapila went outside in a grove to reflect. That's where the samadhi begins in. Although his first thought had been for 2 pieces of gold, he quickly saw that 100 would be better. Then he saw that 1,000, or as we speak in Indian language, a lakh or 100,000, a crore, like 10 million. Just at that point, his good karma ripened, and he recognizes that desire starting from very little quickly becomes limitless. He himself was neglecting his opportunity for study by running after a servant girl, and even a mountain of gold would not satisfy him. He tore his own hair because his process of becoming Keval is defined as Swayam Buddha, who is self-enlightened. So he tore his own hair, becoming self-enlightened Swayam Buddha, and the gods provided him with a monk's garment. Then he preached to the king on the text, that is the stanza 17, which I spoke in the very beginning. Then the more one gets, the more he wants. Desire grows with acquisitions like this. The masas would be enough, yet 10 million do not satisfy. Renouncing everything, he set out on austerities, eventually obtaining omniscience. But now it's the interesting part comes in. He saw that in the forest, 18 yojans from Rajgraha, band of 500 robbers was ready for conversion. So he sensed that, he knew that from his clairvoyant knowledge. He went there and they caught and bound him and took him to their leader. The leader commanded him to dance. So the leader commanded a Kevali to dance. The robbers clapped in their hands to mark the rhythm, and he began to dance. As he danced, he sang the verses of this chapter, and that's why it's in a Dhruva Chanda, and which each stanza, some of the robbers were converted. Until the last, all 500 had seen the light and become his disciple. Now that the Uttarayan Sutra becomes one of the earliest Jain texts introducing definition of Samadhi Yoga, and it also in a way presenting, what exactly a Samadhi Yoga is, also through narrative, also through doctrinal aspect, we are left with a few questions that who is Kapil? And can a Kapil, an omniscient, dance? While Winterson in his 1933 work, History of Indian Literature, Volume 2, calls Uttarayan Sutra a religious poem, he also notes that this Kapila does not appear to have any connection with Kapila of Sankhya system. And I also looked and searched a lot on that, and I could not find connection. Although we have two very, Hindu traditions and yoga-centered name in this text, like Kashyap and Kapila, which looks like there is some relevance, but it's not yet found so. Besides the discussion on Samadhi Yoga, the inquiry regarding Kapila, who becomes the Kevali as Swayam Buddha, can be of our interest. The 17th century Digambara lay author Hemraj Pandey's Chorashi Bol Ki Bhasha, which gives the tradition of polemic discussion between Shvetambara and Digambara, also mentioned the point of Kevali's dancing, and which is described and included as translation in Padmanabh Jaini's essay Hemraj Pandey's Chorashi Bol. And the point goes this way, that Kapila was a Kevali and yet he danced. So this is, I guess, a very interesting formation in which there is a doctrinal message, there is a very early mention and reference or introduction to yoga, specifically Samadhi yoga, which really includes not only just mind, speech, thought, but also body, because he sits, and which is described in a very poetic way, which is a very interesting story that will keep us reflecting and asking the question that why would a Kevali dance? So what could be the reason for that? And maybe I'll continue with this topic and do some more research, and we'll have some answers. I'll just show you this picture. So this is from a manuscript Normans edited. And it's before, in this picture, we have Kapila before the king Prasenjit and after his enlightenment and his preaching to the king. So he was there for gold coins, and now he's Kevali, the immediate realization. And in this, the bottom picture, the bottom panel shows that Kapila is dancing, and these 500 thieves are being converted. And which each, bunch of conversion, he keeps on changing the verses, but he keeps on dancing. So again, we have here the story about now Kapila in front of Prasenjit, and then Kapila plucking out his own hair and becoming Kevali, self-enlightened Swayam Buddha. So I guess, this is very fascinating. Which has a mix of a lot of things. So I'll stop sharing. Thank you.
All right, what a brilliant presentation, Venu Mehta. Wow, a lot of really good stuff in there. I particularly like the point about embodiment too. I think that would be a really good topic for questions and answers. So hearing more about your thoughts on that, the relevance of embodiment in that aspect. And also you alluded to the idea that he was there for gold, but got dancing. Something about the material world with proper attitude might be an indicator for higher spiritual ways or something like that. Very interesting stuff there. I have a lot of thoughts. I'd love to hear more about that. But alas, it's not our Q&A session just yet. That will be coming up soon.